Well, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, County Council holds hearings on increasing the recordation tax 20%. Why did Prince George's County ban fracking in the county after EPA found no evidence that fracking was led to widespread impacts on drinking water? Maryland governor announces a cut in 155 state fees and predicts $60 million in tax savings over the next 5 years. And finally, the Obama administration wades into the transgender bathroom issue. How will it affect your kids? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by political savant Sam Statland, former chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee, Mark Uncapher, education activist Laurie Halverson, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Before we start the show, I want to congratulate panelist Laurie Halverson on being appointed to the State Board of Education. She was sworn in yesterday. Congratulations, Laurie.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really honored that I was appointed by Governor Hogan.
Wonderful accomplishment.
Thank you.
All right, now on to bigger and better things. Montgomery County Council President Nancy Florine proposed an increase in the recordation tax collected on the purchase of a home. And if passed, recordation taxes will increase from $6.90 per thousand to $8.40 per thousand on the first $500,000 value of the home. And on taxes on the amounts over $500,000 will increase from $10 per thousand to $13 per thousand. The increased revenue on amounts up to $500,000 will be specifically dedicated to school improvement and is expected to raise $125 million just for school improvement over the next 6 years. The Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors quickly announced its opposition to Florine's proposal. It's unbelievable the council would consider ramming through a $185 million tax increase with less than a month to go in the budget process, said Peg Mancuso, the group's president. According to real estate agent to the Stars, Jane Fairweather, it's a real barrier to sales, especially for buyers trying to buy their first home. We don't want to have a lot of buyers shut out. We want more buyers to come in. Susan, the idea of more money that is needed for school construction is a great one, but will it discourage people from moving to Montgomery County?
Well, people move to this county in many reasons is the school system. And Casey, there are actually three things that this money goes for. There are three parts. One part of the increase goes to general tax revenue. The second goes to school construction. And the third part, which is very important, and that goes to CIP projects. And a very important part of that part is to help low-income housing and gives benefits. So when you look at it overall, I think it's a great thing, and I'll tell you, Jane Fairweather to the Stars, houses in this home, like the kind she sells, goes in a matter of days. So I think that the people buying those houses.
What kind of elitist attitude is that, Susan? I mean, people have a right to sell and buy houses.
They are, but what I'm saying, this is not going to be a problem on the high end.
Well, how do you know it's not going to be a problem on the high end?
Because
that's an outrageous.
Because if you can afford $5 million for a house, you don't worry about spending another couple $1,000.
That's
Sam,
right.
it contributes to the overall impression that Montgomery County and Maryland is not friendly to people who want to live there. People choose to live here, choose to live in this whole area based on affordability.
It's school.
This is an example where we put in policies that makes things worse and then have another set of, which is to make houses less affordable, and then have another set of policies to try and ameliorate those policies. It's an unending cycle that makes this kind of less competitive.
We're going to go to Laurie, but I want to remind you all, just across the river is the state of Virginia. And Laurie, on a $441,000 home, the proposed increase will raise the recordation tax by $587. When you add in state recordation taxes, county transfer taxes, the home buyer is paying $4,900 for the privilege of living here in Montgomery County compared to Arlington, where the total tax is only $2,700. Why will young people want to live here?
You know, I think a lot of our young people can't even afford to buy a house right now because, you know, the kids right out of college, they have loans they have to pay for. So when you look at the millennials, though, who are now probably they're ready to have a family and they're looking for a house, they want to move. They want to move out of Arlington, where they're renting possibly, or out of DC. But when they look to the DC area, it's just so expensive. And when you add the recordation tax,
the
it's just
inventory
very
of
expensive.
houses in Montgomery County below $500,000 is extremely low.
It is
no one's
today.
having a problem
It is
selling
today.
these houses.
It is
and
today.
$500 is not going to make a difference on the sale price.
It's taken
if
9
you advertise
years.
on a 30-year mortgage,
It's taken 9 years,
it's a buck.
Sam, from the recession that we had to get back the value that was lost.
But do you think $500 will make a difference?
difference?
Yeah,
$500 makes a huge difference
some
for
people
young
it does.
families trying
When
to
you're
start at
looking
home.
at the benefits you get in Montgomery County with our public spaces, with our school system,
Sam,
with transportation, with all that we provide, we happen to be a top 10 place
all right,
to
Sam,
live
I'm going to
in the
take you
entire
across the river.
United States.
I'm going to. You have
At
your
least you didn't make
Is your passport valid?
So why didn't you mention Fairfax
Is your
County?
is your passport
What are the
valid?
taxes in Fairfax
Is your
County?
passport valid? We're going to go across the river someday, and I'll show you what Virginia is
You're
like.
not comparing Fairfax County to Montgomery County, and in Fairfax County, their cost of recordation and
Well,
taxes
I'll
is
tell you
about
what.
the same. Instead,
We
you
got to
pick on
wrap
poor
this
little
up. We got to
Arlington.
wrap this up because I want to pick on Prince George's County, but we'll come back to this topic because the county council hasn't voted on this yet. Now, talking about a different county council, the Prince George's County Council voted unanimously to ban fracking within the county. The move surprised many since locally, not many people know that the southeastern third of Prince George's County sits on top of the Taylorsville Basin, which extends northeast from Richmond to Annapolis and is estimated to contain more than 500 billion cubic feet of natural gas. Just across the Potomac River in Virginia, a company has already leased more than 80,000 acres for potential fracking in the basin. Parts of Charles, Anne Arundel, Calvert, and St. Mary's are also in this basin. Mark, last summer, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency issued a report which concluded we did not find evidence that these mechanisms, talking about fracking, have led to widespread systemic impacts on drinking water resources in the United States. Why did the county take the action that they
Well,
did?
it's so silly, and you put your finger on it. This is not real science. This is really junk science, which is being applied here. And it's fascinating that environmentalists who claim to base so many of their decisions on science have so little to point to in terms of the opposition to fracking. It's always based on something that hypothetically or possibly could happen, but for which there is no evidence.
Well,
That same report also said that the greatest impact is where there's a lot of well water. That whole area is rural. St. Mary's, Charles, southern Prince George's County. And their fracking has made a difference in well water, just like it did in Pennsylvania. We had a big battle in Pennsylvania up there over it. We've had that battle in Western Maryland, where people are very, very concerned about
Well,
groundwater.
the battle
But
in
Sam, it can be-
Pennsylvania
but-
has gone towards fracking.
But
though.
Well, yeah, because it contaminates groundwater.
No, but
I guarantee you, if we were fracking in Montgomery County in the preserve, it would be worse. Better yet, we should build a gas-fired coal plant in the preserve so that when we frack in Montgomery County, we can bring
We're not
gas
ta-
to it.
But tell that to the people who were on 60 Minutes when they could light their fire on water.
Exactly.
Their water on fire.
On
Wait a minute,
fire.
Wait a minute. You know, you take isolated events and you dramatize them.
No,
It's
but
not.
Casey,
Yes, you do, because the reality is fracking can be done safely.
no,
and
it can't. And you know what's driving?
Where'd you get your science?
the
No,
evidence?
wait a
Sorry.
minute, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. Prince George's is very close to us, and due to fracking, Earthquakes. There are 7 states now that are getting more and more
And do you know why the earthquakes happen?
because it's
Yeah, because
breaking
It's
the
from
shells.
wastewater.
It's-
I've heard it's from wastewater from the 60 Minutes
It's,
episode.
And they-
it's reinserting the wastewater in. This can
and
be
it's
done.
also cracking the
Why,
shell
don't
of
you
the
have
earth.
any belief and faith in technology and in science that this can be done safely?
It has not
Oklahoma
been
is
proven,
having
Casey.
3
It
and
is- it-
4
Sam, you're
earthquakes a
wrong.
year.
You're just
Yeah.
wrong.
You're wrong.
Well, they
You're
thought it
just
was from
wrong.
fracking, but it's actually from
I'll
wastewater.
bring,
is what they
I'll bring
believe.
on a fracking expert on the show sometime. But you're just wrong.
No,
it can be done
it
safely.
is bad. And talk
Oh,
about the
my
cancer.
God, we need,
Casey,
we
it's
need,
a
we
rural
need
area.
Listen,
Not
I
only
have
is it a
seen-
rural
I have seen-
area, but there's lots of wetlands. There's areas that have been preserved for years down there.
I've
and then
seen-
we
I've
turn
seen
around
an
and we're gonna
economic
frack
And don't
and ruin
forget the
water.
in the middle
cancer
states
clusters.
And seep it
Pennsylvania.
into the bay and seep
Oh,
into
you
the
guys-
Potomac and all those marshlands.
You guys
Blackwater
are just,
Reserve.
what are you having, fantasy nightmares here?
No.
This is
This is-
ridiculous.
this is reality.
This is
This is
you know,
reality.
there was a time when we believed that the life would be improved through science and science innovation. And we have gotten away from it because you Democrats have scared people to death. When we come back from this short break, we're going to talk about a different topic.
Always gets
And that's
in
the
the last
the
word. You notice
transgender
that?
bathroom issue is coming to your neighborhood. Stay tuned.
It is really fun.
Welcome back. On a more pleasant topic, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announced Thursday that the residents will see a cut of 155 state fees, including an elimination of things like birth certificate costs and other costs like reducing the price of an Easy Pass. And that overall there's going to be a $60 million refund back to taxpayers over the next 5 years. Sam, what's wrong with that plan?
Nothing. I think the governor's doing a great job. And in addition to
Yeah.
this, he has also proposed now a commission that's going to look at state government, which has been done since Marvin Mandel, to see if government can be reshaped to cut costs. In fact, I think we ought to do the same thing here in Montgomery County and save that recordation fee.
Mark, does this mean that the governor is going to be reelected in 2 years?
I certainly would expect so. I think that the polls show that he's one of the most popular governors, if not the most popular governors in the country, and it's because he's doing exactly what he said he would do when he ran.
But
And we have-
aren't you afraid that the state budget's going to be harmed because they've reduced all these fees?
Well, actually, the legislature was prepared to cut taxes, cut the income tax, and they really couldn't come to agreement. So we'll have that to
You know
And
what
they
I-
reduced,
next year.
They reduced the tolls last year. Did that have a
This
negative
is the
effect this
irony
year?
in this
Oh, and
whole
the
thing
ICC
is
is
because
doing
when
very
Governor
well.
Ehrlich was in office, he didn't do
yeah.
taxes. He increased fees.
Oh, and Martin
it's-
O'Malley didn't?
Not fees. No, Bob Ehrlich prided himself on that. Martin O'Malley just raised taxes. Bob Ehrlich.
that
so-
we
Thank you
can
for
agree.
admitting
No,
it. Thank you for admitting
but
it,
Bob
Susan.
Bob Ehrlich went around it and said he would raise fees. So it'll be interesting to see if any of the fees that are being reduced now are the ones that Governor Ehrlich proposed just 10 short
You
years
know,
ago.
Mark and I were talking a little bit before the show, and I said, Mark, what do you think is going to happen 2 years from now when we have an election? Do you think that the electorate is going to feel the same way today or then as it does today, where the governor obviously 2 years ago tapped into a deep-rooted feeling from citizens who actually vote that he's correct and that we need to reform government and that we do need to do things in a more intelligent way? I think it's a very good move, and I would think that the Democrats within the state of Maryland should keep in mind what's happening at the federal level with Mr. Trump, and bring it back to the state level, and maybe do some more reformation.
I think one of the things that is most interesting about Governor Hogan, he created a lot of goodwill with a lot of people in the state by the way he handled his cancer. And I think that he's gained this goodwill. In 2 years, I don't know if
Wait a
that
minute,
same
Susan,
goodwill will be
Susan,
there.
that's you throw out these little canards to try to misdirect people
No,
all,
no, no, no.
all the time.
What
The fact is that he was already popular with the voting public because when he came into office, he kept his word.
No, let
he
me
kept
finish.
his word and cut taxes and he
You-
cut fees,
you-
and that was before he announced that he had cancer.
You didn't let me finish. He had goodwill, yes, but within the Democrats in this state, there is a lot of goodwill,
There
basically because he handled it with such grace and dignity.
Yeah, but he's
And
also keeping his word and reducing the cost to the average person. The guy who has to get his Easy Pass renewed every year and had to pay an exorbitant fee that other states weren't charging is going to remember that Larry Hogan kept his word.
Yes,
You know,
but then
because-
if it starts showing up though that we're hurting this $60 million, though, where does that come? Then we'll see. People will wonder now. What are we going to
Well,
do? to make up?
if we had fracking in Prince George's County, we might have some revenue from
We'd have water
from
going on fire.
natural
We'd have
gas
cancer
production.
cells, and we would have earthquakes.
And a gas-fired power plant.
Yeah,
my.
throw it
It's
into.
being built
All right,
now.
we have
which
to
is
get
being taken
serious
to
about
court.
this next subject because this is a subject that I think anyone who listens to this and thinks about it is uncomfortable by the topic. The Obama administration on Friday directed schools across the nation to provide transgender students with access to suitable facilities, including bathrooms and locker rooms, that match their chosen gender identity. The action was taken just days after the Justice Department and the state of North Carolina filed dueling lawsuits over a new law in North Carolina requiring individuals of that state to use bathrooms based on their birth gender. Conservative columnist Eric Erickson wrote, "Normal people realize that sex and gender are the same thing, but the entirety of the transgenderism movement is that demands that sex is what you are born as and gender is what you are, what you decide you are. This is a fringe movement, and the Obama administration has decided to have valid legal claims to pee where they wish." Now, Sam, this is a difficult topic. I don't know how you wrap your head around this kind of a topic because there are cross emotions involved here. What do you think?
I think, first of all, for a student at a middle school level or a high school level to state that they're transgender, it's got to be one of the most difficult orations that child will ever make, and they need empathy. I also think that within all groups, no matter who they are, whether it's transgender, whether it's gay, whether it's bi, whether it's all the rest of the fancy initials that go with it, that you treat people one-on-one as you meet them. And hopefully without any kind of a biased vision of that person. Therefore, to me, in ways, this is not a big issue because I would think that if a child and parents and schools, the way it's done some places in the country, feels that he should be or she should be in the other bathroom, and the other students in the school obviously seem to go along with it, that's an empathy that we all should have.
Sam,
and I'm tired, Casey. I'm tired really of labels, period. And in ways, I'm tired of political correctness. I think that everyone should be treated equally as they should be treated.
It's
and
not
let
the
it
question.
go.
It's not the question of wanting to treat people equally,
Right.
but I think it's a question of how do you make certain adjustments. I mean, coming over here, I listened to the superintendent from Fairfax County talking about this, and they said with respect to the bathroom issue, it's not that hard to resolve. You dedicate a bathroom, and you can solve that problem. The bigger issue is with locker rooms, sports teams, and showers. Would you want your daughter to have to shower with an individual who was born a male but now identifies as a female?
Casey, I've been a sports official for 40 years at a college and high school level, and during that point in time, you've had boy-girl teams of all sports, whether it's soccer, some cases football, basketball, lacrosse, all the sports. And it never seemed to be a problem in the athletic area of a school. There was always an accommodation made. I just don't think it's that big an issue.
But you're precisely right about the point, and I think Casey, but you're not answering Casey's question. Part of the problem in this issue, forgive us, Casey and I are both lawyers, is the lawyers have gotten involved, and by making it a question of rights and laws and mandates and regulations, we've kind of taken the common sense of the accommodations that more naturally happen in society when what is an extremely small minority of people, but one that does exist, that naturally happens. And by whether it's the North Carolina law or the Obama administration regulation, common sense is ending up getting trumped by this kind of legal morass that we're creating by establishing rights that we're really never required to begin with.
Mark,
because I don't think there's evidence that there was a problem before because of the ability to make the natural common sense accommodations.
Obviously, there are issues that came out in North Carolina. There are states that may not have the same kind of approach to issues that we do here and other locations. And when you think, I talked to a friend today about this topic, and she's a retired elementary school teacher, and she says this is, much like Sam said, the most difficult issue that a parent and child could ever face. And if a child feels so strongly about this that they start wearing the clothes of the other gender and are going through psychological testing and counseling and all this stuff, I think that we should make accommodations.
But
So
making accommodations
what's your resolution, Mark?
that's a separate
But
issue.
when states refuse to do it, at
But-
what point?
But that's because a law was passed.
Yeah, but what the Obama administration has in effect trumped North Carolina. This isn't just about North Carolina. This is a mandate on the entire country. Now, I don't want to go to, I mean, the legal issue would be the 10th Amendment constitutional question of whether or not the administration has the
Well,
authority.
it also becomes a
Before you
federally
get-
state rights issue.
Well, that's what we're saying. Yes, it is a states' right issue. But the question really is, before you get to that, is a common sense issue of do you have to set up a national policy, a mandate because of a couple of states or because
a couple
of North
of
Carolina?
states, there are states all over,
I
especially
think the last
in
count
the
was
South.
about 34.
Yeah, that's a lot of states that, you
Well,
know.
look, there are a lot of nuances here. The North Carolina established their law, I've been told, because a father sued to prevent a transgender from having locker room access. That was the genesis of their bill. And it remains a fundamental issue.
Well, it's interesting because I heard a conversation when the North Carolina law was passed, and a very sage old man said, if you're worried about your child being abused, it's going on now too. I mean, in North Carolina, if you listen to that conversation, you would have people believe that boys and girls are getting abused everywhere and that it is going to lead to sexual abuse across the board. It's happening now in some cases.
Well, but this is not going to be solved here tonight, obviously. But I mean, this is the fact that the Obama administration has introduced this as a national subject is one that we in Maryland and in Montgomery County now have to address. Before, we could sit on the periphery and watch it.
But I
This is
think
gonna
we
come
might
toward-
have laws already in Maryland that cover this. I'm
Well,
not
I
certain,
don't-
but
I
I
don't
think
know.
we do.
Lori, we didn't ask you to comment because of your new position on the Board of Education.
Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea not for me to
It's proper
do
that
this.
you
I may have to
do-
weigh in on it later.
You may have to weigh in on later,
Yes.
so thank you for listening patiently. Stay tuned for parting shots when we come back from the short break. Now with parting shots, Sam Statland.
Folks, mark on your calendar, this coming Thursday the 19th. Is that Thursday? Yeah, Thursday the 19th. Mobile Medical Care, one of my pet charities that provides medical care to the homeless, is having a wonderful event at the Hyatt Regency in Bethesda. Cost of a ticket is $60, for which you will get great food, drinks, and 2 nationally recognized comedians. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be the place to be. We're having a happening for mobile medical care on Thursday. Go to our website, www.mobilemedicalcare, and get a ticket. See you there.
Thank you, Sam. Mark Uncapher for your parting shot.
We talked about the fee issue. This is my easy pass from the Peace Bridge up in Buffalo, actually in New York State. And one of the advantages of it is I had no deposit and no monthly fee. And during the bad old days of the O'Malley administration, there was a monthly fee on the Maryland Easy Pass. It's a reminder of the fact that people can make changes and can go to other states to do things better. Hats off to Governor Hogan for making Maryland more competitive.
Laurie Halverson, your parting shot.
Today I had a wonderful lunch with the Maryland Federation of Republican Women, and Yumi Hogan was our First Lady of the state, was the honoree. And it was a lovely event, and she spoke today about her year and her difficulty going through the cancer with her husband, and it was a very moving speech. So I'm really glad I was there, and really appreciate having Yumi as our First Lady.
Thank you, Laurie. Susan Heltemes, lead us out.
January 28th each year, they do a count of the homeless in this area. Montgomery County went down this year from 1,100 to 981. There's been a 31% reduction in homeless families, and December they noted that all veterans are supposedly now have homes in Montgomery County. Keep up the good work, and part of the recordation money will be used to help on this issue.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, panel, for being here. This is a very interesting and heated exchange we had tonight, but it was good that we were able to discuss these issues together. Thank you to the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest-hitting political talk show. And remember, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and you can watch us on YouTube. For 21 This Week, I'm Casey Aiken.